All right, what we're getting ready to do now is we're going to warp or foil our propeller blades for our helicopter's part of the gyro chaser. So we're going to actually create a curvature in the fin. This is regular balsa wood now. It's dry balsa wood, so we couldn't bend it. What we're going to do is we're going to spray it with a water ammonia mix. Windex is one thing that'll work really good, or you can mix up just ammonia and water yourself and then spray it on them and let it soak in, and then we're going to wrap them around a 3/4 inch dowel to give them that curvature, and a 3/4 inch dowel works about the right way. You might have a broom handle or a plunger or some other stick in your house if you don't have a dowel. I got this at Hobby Lobby for about $1.69, so it's not too bad. Carry that 40% coupon off and knocks the price down. So what we have to do first is we're going to set everything up, and I'm going to use this lid to marinate or soak my my propeller blades on so I don't get it all over. You can do it right on your board, you can do it in a tub. I'm just going to do it right here on theirs. And what we're going to do is we're going to spray them with the Windex. Now the problem with the Windex is it will be a soapy additive to it, so it's going to make the tape not stick as well. Flip them over and get the other side. Now the thing to remember about these blades is that the straight edge here, the flat edge, is your leading edge. The curved edge is your trailing edge. So we need to remember that when we're starting the assembly. I'm going to set this off to the side. Now I've already got some bed sheet, pillowcase, whatever you happen to have, some cloth that we're going to use to wrap around the wooden dowel when we apply them to the dowel. But we need to mark up our dowel also, so that we can put the we have a line to put the balsa wood up against and make sure that they're all straight and equal so we don't get funny wobbles in our flight patterns. So we're just going to take our angled aluminum, like we use a lot. We're going to use a marker this time, and we're going to mark a straight line all the way down the aluminum. We're using a marker because we really need to see this line. We don't want it to disappear on us when it gets wet. Okay, so we've got that there. Flip it around, make sure I carry it all the way to the very end of the... There we go. Okay, so now we've got our line. And that's going to be our alignment guide for setting these on the dowel. Now, if you want to use a short dowel, you can put two together, one on each side. Just be sure that you have the same edge. Like if the flat edge is facing to the right, make sure that on the other side that flat edge is also facing the right, because if you have it the opposite direction, you're going to have a funny wobble and it won't spin. So we're watching our fins, and we're waiting for them to get nice and soft. A little bit more soak in there and they'll be ready. Getting really close now. Re-wet them. Again, this is something you want to make sure that when you're doing it, it's not freezing cold. You don't want that to freeze up and the ice crystals would just destroy your fins or your wings. Now you also need to have your towel nearby to help wipe your fingers with and dry your fingers constantly, because you don't want to try and handle tape. And we're going to take our masking tape and we're going to have it ready. And I'm just going to pull a few pieces off and stick them right up here where I can grab them quickly. And I'm going to tear these pieces probably a lot longer than I need them, but it's always easier to tear off the excess than it is to try and one-handedly get another piece of tape. Alright, let's check on our fins again. just about there. Yeah, they're getting real close to being ready. Now, I did not sand these before I started any of this. And I'm going to apply it this way. I want them to spin clockwise. So if I have the line going, the piece going to the left, it will spin clockwise. Now I need to tape this first piece right up here at the top. And you're going to find out that it is difficult to get the tape to stick when it's got ammonia Windex on it. Okay, so we've got that tape. Now we're going to tape the bottom, and we're going to be really, really sure we're straight on this line. We have to be straight on this line. So now we're around the bottom here. Our next step is to take our sheet, tear off a small piece here. We're going to put it on the end of the sheet here. And we're going to start wrapping. So I'm going to tape it to the top of the stick, just like that. And then I'm going to start wrapping. Now I'm pulling it tight as I wrap. I need to wrap the other direction. So let's switch this around. So I am pulling this tight as I wrap. And the effect is that I'm squishing the blade up against the dowel. Now we've got to kind of watch it and make sure that we're staying even and holding it in place with our finger on this wooden dowel. And if you lose your track, you can back up. It's no big deal to back up and then start over again and just hold it firmly in place and start wrapping. If you've let the balsa wood soak long enough, it's not going to crack or make any funny noises. If you hear it making noises, obviously you haven't let it soak long enough, so go ahead and spray it again. Let it soak a little bit longer. Now I'm trying to make sure that I keep this edge right up against there on that line. That line is very, very, very important. So I'm using my finger to pull it over if I need to. Push it into place and wrap it in. There we go. And you can see I'm still right along that line every time I wrap. Very, very important. You can fix this if you do get out of alignment towards the end of your wraps. If you go and take it off the wooden dowel later on, you're like, oh my goodness, it's not straight, it's out of alignment. You just re-soak it. Wait till it gets flimsy again, and then reapply it onto the wooden dowel with the wrapping again. All right. So there we are down at the bottom. I'm actually going to just spin this like this on the bottom. Kind of go back up this way a little bit. So I'm going to let this breathe with the wrap on it, and that's going to allow it to, all this Windex to come out of it. And then tape it right up here again. So that's one. We're going to get the other two blades wrapped on here, and then we're going to let it sit overnight and dry. Tomorrow we're going to airfoil, actually sand the blades and get them ready to be mounted and mount them on the hub assembly. All right, we've let the rotor blades sit in our little wrap up overnight, so they should be good and dry now. So we're just going to go ahead and peel the tape off and free these little things out of there. Let's find our tape here. Pop that off. And then we do have a little bit of sanding that we're going to be doing on these. we want to create airfoil of sorts to help them work as a helicopter. Okay. So there's one freed up. Let's go ahead and pop the tape off of it here. Remember, it is balsa wood, so kind of support it while you're peeling the tape. You don't want to accidentally rip a fin and destroy it or anything. And I lost my beginning, so I'm just going to go ahead and make a new one here. So put a little cut in the tape and I can peel it. Okay. There we go. So there's our first one. And you can see we've got a nice little curve in there now. So that's going to help it fly as a helicopter. Now, we do have a little bit of work to do on these still. Like I said, this is our leading edge here on this side. And this is our trailing edge, curved or rounded side. So we're going to round over this edge just a little bit so we don't have the trailing vortices. And we're going to airfoil this edge just a little bit. We'll smooth the top off. And you don't have to smooth the bottom because that's already an area of what we call turbulent air. So to give you an idea, let's draw this out real quick. So we have our airfoil, and this is representing our little propeller here looking at the end. So it's spinning around, and we have the airfoil. Air is going to go over it slower than it does under it. So it's going to go under it faster. We're going to have a little bit of turbulent air swirling underneath here. So we don't have to worry about this being as smooth, but the smoother the top is, the better it works for allowing air to flow over it smoothly. Now, if we make it look like a box, if we have this edge airfoiled to where it's tapered a little bit, it's not air hitting a hard end and being deflected off in directions. It's able to go around it a lot better. And again, we have our turbulent airflow and our smooth airflow going over the top. So we have the foil like that, rounded the taper in so it doesn't have too much turbulence or air swirling in the backside of it. So by having a rounded back and that nice taper front, the air will flow over the top a lot better and come off the tail a lot better. So that's what we're going to be doing. And I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of these off of the dowel, and then we're going to go ahead and come back and start the airfoiling process. We'll be using a dowel as a support structure. So we're finished getting these down and off the rod, and then we'll start the airfoiling. Okay, we're ready to start doing the airfoiling part of this now. So we can support the blade using our wooden dowel, and that gives us something to sand on while we're supporting it and beveling that edge a little bit. Then I've got some 220 here. I don't think I want to go much coarser than 220. And I can sit here and I can sand and just take this edge off a little bit from the top side. And again, the important thing to remember is we need to support this. And something I did is I made sure that my alignment line on all three of them was straight on, that I hadn't moved or warped out of alignment. See, we're straight on the line there. And then the other one also is straight along our line. And that's why we drew that line, is to make sure that we have good alignment, and that helps prevent the blades from wobbling while it's flying. So again, I'm just sitting here watching the edge, and I'm kind of beveling it down. I'm not trying to put a knife edge on it. I'm just trying to take off the harsh edge of it and bevel it a little bit. And you can see it kind of took a little bit off that edge. Not the easiest thing to see, but I've knocked a little bit of that edge off. I can work it with my hand a little bit. Just be sure you're supporting it. I can use the wooden dowel and my hand to do it also. And we're just going to sand and knock that edge off a little bit. Just like that. Okay. And I'm going to do the same thing for the back end if we want. Just hold it up against that rod. And you can see how we've got this long windy taper here, and we can just kind of take a little bit off that edge there. And then we can use our hands, and we can do a little bit of hand sanding if we need to, and just take that edge off. And then on the front edge, obviously we got to be careful. Be sure you're supporting it, and you can kind of bevel that edge a little bit. We'll just keep going all the way down. And then when we've knocked enough of the edge down, we can just take the sandpaper and do our little half round trick where we hold it in a half round and round over that edge the rest of the way. And then we can do the same thing for the back, just give it a nice rounded over edge. Again, remember to support and be very, very gentle and easy. You don't want to snap your rotor blade off. And again, because you can do stuff like that, that's why I take and I draw a copy or photocopy a schematic of all my fins at scale, and I put it into memory of my computer, so at any time if I need to reproduce one of these because it lands funny and breaks, or hits a tree branch and breaks, or whatever, I can turn around, go get a sheet of stock, pull this out of memory of the computer, and go ahead and make a new rotor blade and glue it on. So we're going to go ahead and finish sanding. We are going to sand the top and smooth it off as much as possible. We want a nice smooth top so we don't have a lot of turbulent air over that. The underside isn't as important. You can give it a little bit of a sand so it's a little bit smoother, a little bit better airflow, but it's already turbulent air, so it's really not going to make as big of a difference. Again, be sure you support, I'm going to say it again and again, support the balsa wood while you're sanding so you don't snap it. So we're going to sand it, we're going to finish the airflow on the top, we're going to do a little round over on the back, and we're going to sand the top and the bottom until we get it smooth. Alright, we've got them all sanded, and of course we're going to brush off all that sanding dust that we created and clean up our counter space so we don't have dust flying around. I didn't poke out the little notch piece when I first pulled the fins out and warped them. I'm going to poke that out now and just pull out that piece. Okay, and we're going to throw that off to the side. Now we need to reinforce the weakest part of this blade is going to be the joint where it connects, and that's going to be right there where the hole is. And the kit comes with this cloth right here. And we're going to take this cloth and we're going to lay it over. You can do the underside or the overside. I'm going to do the underside. You're going to lay the piece of cloth over that, and then we're going to super glue it in place with thin CA glue. So this cloth is about 3 inches long. We're going to go ahead and cut it into 3 equal pieces. Then we'll go 1, and then 2, and we've got our 2 pieces. Or 3 pieces, excuse me. Okay. Let's put these where they're not going to get blown away. Now we're going to lay it there, right over that area, and then we're going to super glue it with thin CA glue right into that spot. Now you can use the long wiki tube, or you can just use your tip, depending on how good you are with your CA glue. And again, we're using CA glue, so let's go ahead and grab our little piece of plastic out and have that ready so we don't glue our things to the board. Okay, so we're going to center that over the hole there. And this is just going to act as a reinforcement for the balsa wood there. So a little CA glue. A good coat in there. Okay. And then you'll see you have a little bit extra on the sides there. We're just going to let the CA glue dry, and then we're going to cut that off with our sharp X-Acto knife, or if you have some small iris style scissors, we can use that to cut it off. Now I'm looking to make sure there's no bubbles in here. We want it to be nice and flat, and that's another reason for the bag, is I can push down on the glue anywhere where I don't like it and make sure that we're flat. Okay, the glue's set up, and we'll go ahead and trim off the excess. That's why I like these scissors. They are really, really good for getting in tight places. And there we go. And if you want, you can always grab like your real fine sandpaper, just kind of buff that edge if you have a rough edge that you don't like. There we go. I'm happy with that. So we'll do the other two just the same way, and then we'll be ready to mount them on the main rotor hub. All right, we've sanded off that edge and got the burrs off, and it's nice and smooth. Now we need to cut right here in the center where our cloth covered our hole. Again, we have our sharp hobby knife. I want to cut on my mat, not on my plastic. And we're just going to cut off that excess piece right there. Nice and easy. Don't rush it. Take your time. And again, be sure you're using a sharp hobby knife. So one side, and then the other side. So we're going to trim that up and get it all nice and clean. We'll do our other two, and then we'll be ready to mount this on the rotor. And again, you want to use a sharp hobby knife. You want to take your time. Do a really good job of this, because you don't want to have to be forcing things when you're mounting this on your rotor assembly. So we'll come back and start our mounting on the rotor assembly when we finish the other two blades.